An independent news outlet in Hong Kong is feeling the heat from Beijing. The newspaper has been attacked twice in the span of a month. Its director suspects it's part of a crackdown ordered by the Chinese regime. A grieving mother in China has been arrested dozens of times. She's looking for answers following her son's death, which she says could have been avoided. 3 leopards escaped a Chinese zoo, but the zoo didn't announce their disappearance until weeks later. One of the big cats is still at large. A curious trend appeared on Chinese social media, Winnie the Pooh, but mentions of the honey-loving teddy bear soon disappeared from trending charts. That's because Chinese netizens often use Winnie the Pooh as a euphemism for Communist Party leader Xi Jinping. And reports reveal a new German-Chinese vaccine collaboration. A Chinese drug maker will give its German counterpart $100 million. In return, the German company will hand over its vaccine manufacturing technology. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Beijing appears to be tightening its leash on Hong Kong's press freedoms as acts of violence against independent media outlets increase in the region. NTD's Juliet Song has more.
The U.S. State Department is condemning an attack against an Epoch Times reporter in Hong Kong. The Epoch Times newspaper is a multi-language news outlet operating around the globe. It's banned in mainland China but has a branch in Hong Kong. In an email, the State Department wrote, "Attacks against journalists are unacceptable and cannot be tolerated." It also urged authorities to complete a full investigation into the incident. Reporter Sarah Liang works for the paper's Hong Kong branch. On Tuesday, a man wielding a softball hit Liang more than 10 times outside her apartment building before fleeing the area. The attack left bruises on both of her legs. The director of Hong Kong Epoch Times says Liang is now in recovery.
The doctor said she was badly beaten. Luckily, her bones weren't injured, and Liang is now receiving medical treatment.
Guo says she thinks the Chinese regime is behind the attack. She adds that the attack isn't a standalone incident.
Hong Kong Epoch Times has recently suffered a series of violent attacks.
Just last month, 4 men broke into the paper's printing facility, damaging machines and computers there. The facility has also endured 4 similar attacks in recent years. Guo points out that a pro-Beijing newspaper also launched a smear campaign against the publication.
Also, unidentified men followed our reporters and spied on us outside our printing press. Our employees' family members in China were also threatened. It's not a standalone incident, but a combination of threats, stalking, and smear campaigns.
She says the paper is attacked because it's one of just a few independent news outlets in the city. The paper's Hong Kong edition is known for its uncensored China coverage, often highlighting reports of the Chinese Communist regime's corruption and human rights abuse.
And under the current difficult circumstances, people really hope to see truthful reporting from the Epoch Times, and the Chinese regime is afraid to let people know the truth.
And it's not just the Epoch Times. The Chinese regime appears to be tightening its leash on the city's press freedom. Last month, authorities sentenced activist Jimmy Lai to 14 months in prison. Lai is an outspoken critic of Beijing and the founder of a pro-democracy newspaper. Guo says Epoch Times employees in Hong Kong are under mounting pressure.
It's media professionals' mission to report on what's happening locally. It's what they should do. And if Hong Kong loses freedom of speech, then Hong Kong would completely lose its value. The lives of the people of Hong Kong will also get more difficult. So if truthful reporting can deliver their voice, it's protection for the people there.
She says that's why, even though the pressure is huge, they're not willing to give up. Juliet Son, NTD News.
11 prisoners of conscience in China are currently in police custody and are seeking fair trials. But Chinese authorities are making things difficult for their defense lawyers. Here are the details.
The Chinese regime is detaining 11 Beijing residents. According to a Chinese human rights lawyer, authorities arrested them last year for taking pictures of empty streets in Beijing during the pandemic and then posting them online. But at the same time, the 11 people are all members of a faith group Beijing has been persecuting for years. While the defendants are awaiting trial, authorities are also banning their defense lawyers from viewing court documents. This despite Chinese laws allowing them to do so.
The law says that defense lawyers may read, photocopy, and hand copy parts of the documents. The defendants have the right to choose whether their lawyers can do it, not the judge.
But a local courthouse is adding extra requirements for lawyers to look at documents related to the defendant's charges, and they are not explaining why. For example, all the defense lawyers have to be present at the same time. Plus, the courthouse bans them from making copies or taking photos of the files. Courthouse staff also do not provide lawyers with any digital document or USB flash drives. One of the defense lawyers, Liang Xiaojun, is taking legal actions against the court's requirements, but the Beijing prosecutor's office has yet to respond to him. Another Chinese lawyer unrelated to the case believes Chinese authorities knew that all the defendants are innocent, but they failed to find evidence proving they are guilty. All the 11 defendants in this case are adherents of the spiritual practice Falun Dafa. The practice consists of slow-moving meditative exercises. Its moral teachings are centered around the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. The Chinese Communist regime has been persecuting Falun Dafa practitioners since 1999. In this case, the regime has been forcing the 11 detainees to stay in brainwashing centers since their arrest last July. Chinese human rights lawyer Wen Donghai said Chinese police, courts, and prosecutors always break their own laws while dealing with Falun Dafa practitioner-related cases.
If a prosecutor knows someone didn't commit crimes but still tries to hold that person accountable, the prosecutor is committing crimes according to criminal law.
According to Mingwei.org, the CCP arrested or harassed over 2,800 Falun Dafa practitioners in March and April this year, and authorities robbed them of an equivalent of over $77,000 in cash. The goal is to force them to give up their spiritual practice.
One Chinese mother has been arrested 50 times, all because she continued to demand justice for her family. She's seeking answers after her son died during an earthquake. Here are the details.
Wednesday marks the 13th anniversary of an earthquake that killed tens of thousands of people in southwestern China. The Chinese regime called the deaths accidental, blaming them on the natural disaster. But one mother believes that many student deaths could have been avoided.
Even the troops who were trying to rescue people said that school buildings were poorly constructed. Only the buildings that housed students collapsed. The private properties in the same area didn't. The steel rebar was very thin, and none of them met safety standards.
Over a decade ago, Lu's son died after a school collapsed during the Sichuan earthquake. She began investigating the incident and started looking for those responsible to hold them accountable. Lu told Hong Kong-based radio station RTHK that the regime arrested her 50 times just for seeking justice for her son. She added that authorities only issued one official arrest notice. She was then put behind bars for 30 days.
Over the years, we have approached many departments, but they don't care. The court didn't accept our cases either. It's difficult to petition, as anyone trying to do so will be arrested and detained.
Lu noted that no one has been held accountable for the school's collapse 13 years ago. Leadership in the province has changed hands since then. She says her efforts have gotten her nowhere. Official data says nearly 70,000 people died in the earthquake. Sichuan authorities report nearly 18,000 others went missing. But non-governmental groups estimate that the death toll actually reached around 300,000. More than 10% were school students. Multiple schools were destroyed in the accident, though one in particular ended with one of the highest casualty numbers. After a campus building collapsed, hundreds of students and teachers were buried alive. Lu's son was one of them. She says she'll keep fighting until she sees justice served.
Now we turn to southeastern China, where part of a highway overpass has collapsed. The structure crumbled into a nearby lake. In a video posted online, a man appears to be describing his reaction to witnessing the accident.
I was cooking and it scared me to death.
So far, Chinese media reports say no one was injured. The cause of the accident is now under investigation. The collapsed highway is part of a construction project that's set to be completed by the end of this month. Chinese netizens are referring to this construction as tofu project. This is a popular term in China, used to describe buildings or constructions with very bad quality. 3 leopards have escaped from a zoo in eastern China. One of them is still at large. Chinese state-owned media CCTV reported on Monday that the big cat is wandering in nearby villages. The 3 leopards fled from the Hangzhou Safari Park on April 19th, but the zoo did not confirm their escape until 2 weeks later. That's after nearby villagers called the police after spotting cat-like animals. Local media say the zoo has come under fire for delaying the news about the escape. By last Saturday, authorities already captured 2 of the leopards. The zoo anesthetized and caught the first leopard 3 days after the escape. 17 days later, a search team of 4,000 people caught the second one. The 3rd leopard is somehow a lot harder to get. Multiple teams are trying to find traces of the big cat in the surrounding mountains. They used thermal imaging, but were still unable to locate the animal. Later, they used live chicken as baits, installed infrared camera monitors, and are watching the surroundings day and night. At the same time, they also released search dogs equipped with GPS. The search for the 3rd leopard is still ongoing. Local authorities have asked residents to stay alert, and the zoo remains closed. State-run news agency Xinhua reported that police have detained several zoo employees and have launched an investigation into the incident. Winnie the Pooh trended on Chinese social media. A Pooh-related topic got over 100 million views on Chinese social media platform Weibo alone. But the news soon disappeared from the list of trending topics, and the page could not be displayed. Related comment sections have also been shut down. The Chinese regime considers the Disney bear a sensitive figure. That's because many Chinese netizens use him as a euphemism for CCP leader Xi Jinping. The trend on social media started with a boy in Shanghai Disneyland. He recently punched an employee dressed as Winnie the Pooh. Many Chinese media reported on it, but all of them avoided referring to the bear as Winnie the Pooh. Instead, they used the puff bear. Winnie the Pooh has been one of the sensitive words in China since 2013. Chinese netizens compared photos of Xi and then U.S. President Obama walking side by side to Winnie the Pooh and his friend Tigger. The Chinese regime not only censors the name Winnie the Pooh, but also bans his photos from all Chinese social media. Beijing also blocked the 2013 Disney live-action film Christopher Robin featuring Winnie the Pooh. Chinese authorities did not explain why. U.S.-based former media professional Li Maozhen revealed that he used Pooh as his profile picture on Chinese social media. But his friends said they couldn't see his profile picture. Li previously told NTD when he worked for Chinese media, the CCP's propaganda department would issue bans every day. He had to filter all the news before publishing. If a media outlet posted an article that didn't meet the regime's requirements, authorities would remove the article or even shut down the website. Debris from a Chinese rocket fell back to Earth over the weekend, raising concerns. Former NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine warned on Monday that the U.S. must protect its important assets in space.
One thing that's important to note is we have very little, almost no diplomatic interactions with China. And the reason is because of these types of events. We go back to 2009 when they shot down a weather satellite and it resulted in orbital debris that today we're still dealing with as it relates to the International Space Station.
NASA denounced China's irresponsible attitude to space safety after debris from a Chinese rocket fell back to Earth on Saturday. The U.S. Space Command confirmed the Chinese rocket re-entered the atmosphere over the Arabian Peninsula, but it's unclear if the debris fell on land or water. Chinese state-run media Global Times accuses the U.S. of fanning fear about the re-entry, claiming the U.S. is jealous of China's technological progress. But former NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine warns that a similar incident happened last May, and the debris landed on the African nation of Côte d'Ivoire or Ivory Coast.
We have to be really good at space situational awareness. That includes not just ground sensors, but space-based sensors that are basically protecting and keeping an eye around our centers of gravity, around our most important satellites.
He says satellites related to America's key capabilities must be protected, such as the National Technical Means Satellite and Advanced High-Frequency Satellite for Nuclear Command and Control.
A new German-Chinese vaccine venture is on the horizon. Germany's BioNTech and a unit of Shanghai Fosun Pharmaceutical are joining forces on the project. This, according to a company filing on Sunday. The Chinese drug maker will give BioNTech $100 million in assets and funding. In return, BioNTech will give the Chinese drug maker its vaccine manufacturing technology. A plant will also be built in China, where BioNTech will produce its vaccines. The joint venture comes amid debates of a possible vaccine patent waiver. Supporters suggest waiving intellectual property rights would make vaccines more available in poorer countries, while critics say it could allow the Chinese regime to get its hands on American intellectual property. The German-Chinese project will likely benefit China's vaccine development. It's generally agreed that Western-made vaccine efficacy is higher than China's. The joint venture is set for 15 years, and each company will own 50%. Germany's BioNTech and US-based Pfizer are also profiting from joint vaccine projects. They work together during clinical trials and in the manufacturing process. Their vaccines use mRNA technology, something China has yet to develop. The New York Stock Exchange is delisting 3 Chinese telecom companies. The trio started selling shares on the exchange about 2 decades ago. They are China Mobile, China Unicom, and China Telecom. The delistings are in line with U.S. investment restrictions. Last November, then U.S. President Trump barred Americans from investing in Chinese military-linked companies. 1 month later, a new law came into effect. Foreign companies have to comply with U.S. accounting rules. Otherwise, U.S. stock exchanges can delist them. In January, the New York Stock Exchange suspended trading of the 3 Chinese companies' shares. To continue raising money from investors, the trio tried to reverse the decision, but they all lost their appeals. The rules remain in place after President Biden took office. In separate announcements, the 3 telecom carriers said the delistings will occur 10 days after the exchange informs U.S. regulators. One of the carriers is looking for other ways to raise money again. China Telecom announced in March that it plans to list its shares in Shanghai. Sportswear giant Adidas is seeing a sales boom in China. The company's sales there jumped over 150% over the first 3 months of 2021. That's despite a boycott from Chinese consumers. It all started with a statement back in 2019. In it, Adidas expressed concerns over cotton coming from China's Xinjiang region. Fabric producers there have come under fire for allegations of forced labor. The region is home to the Uyghur ethnic minority, and about 12 million members live there. Washington has accused Beijing of committing genocide against Uyghurs. China reportedly uses a number of tactics to control them, including mass detention in camps and forced labor. But Xinjiang is also deeply embedded in the global supply chain. It produces over 80% of the cotton in China, and it also accounts for 20% of the world's cotton supply. In a statement, Adidas noted that the company explicitly required our fabric suppliers not to source any yarn from the Xinjiang region. It also pointed out that Adidas has never manufactured goods in Xinjiang and has no contractual relationship with any Xinjiang supplier. This is the statement that threw Adidas into a storm of Chinese controversy earlier this year. But it wasn't the first company to face the backlash. This March, a branch of the Chinese Communist Party blasted Swedish apparel company H&M for a similar statement. It accused the company of spreading rumors about Xinjiang cotton while trying to make money in China. The post sparked debate online. Soon after, China's state media outlets joined in, helping to turn the criticism into a full boycott movement. H&M was hit hard by the sales plunge. About 20 of its locations in China forced to close. Tech companies removed the store's locations from digital maps, and e-commerce websites even took down H&M's merchandise from their sales platforms. But Adidas and Nike couldn't completely escape the chaos either. Communist Party media mouthpiece The People's Daily says these companies should also take the blame, as they too expressed concerns about Xinjiang cotton. Later, some Chinese consumers also started boycotting Adidas. Multiple Chinese celebrities cut off their sponsorship deals with the company, and its app was also removed from app stores. Adidas did see a steep drop in demand, but sales have since recovered, and the company's CEO says he looks forward to very strong growth in China, its single biggest market. A prestigious London college specializing in Oriental studies is feeling the chilling effects of Hong Kong's new security law. It's warning staff and students that they risk prison time for carrying lecture notes if they visit the region.
The Times reports SOAS University of London has told its staff and students not to record lectures or class discussions related to China or Hong Kong. In guidance seen by the Times, SOAS warned that they risk jail for carrying evidence of such lectures if they visit those places. It warns that classroom discussions and teaching materials may be used against them due to the new security law in Hong Kong. And that law is not restricted to the region. What staff and students do outside of Hong Kong can also be used as evidence they have violated the new law and may even lead to prison sentences. The SOAS guidance notes that employing research assistants based in China or Hong Kong could pose a risk too, as they could be forced to collaborate with the authorities.
And that's all for today's China in Focus. But before you go, we have a special announcement. China in Focus is partnering with the Epoch Times newspaper on their new platform, Epoch TV. That's where you can watch our exclusive special reports every Friday night. In them, we'll explore questions like where the CCP virus actually comes from, how China lures foreign companies in, steals their technology, and kicks them out, how the ancient Chinese philosophy of good governance differs from the current-day communist regime, and much more. Be sure to check out these investigative episodes by clicking on the link in the description down below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you really want to understand what's happening with China. In the latest report, we discuss the controversies over the theories of the CCP virus's origin. The CCP virus has killed 3 million people, but one question has never been answered. Where does the virus actually come from? Some believe the pandemic may have first leaked from a Wuhan lab.
I still think the most likely etiology of this pathogen in Wuhan was from a laboratory, escaped.
Others strongly oppose the idea and call it a conspiracy theory. In a special report, we look at the arguments and what's behind the controversy. Thanks for watching, and see you tomorrow.